The queen begins to use her power, making the pirate leader's body contort until it breaks. Leping, upon seeing this, mentions that they have yet to resolve their internal issues, while thinking about how she had said she wouldn't eliminate anyone. Upon hearing him, the queen questions him and accuses him of having already figured it out. It is revealed that the pirate leader was essentially just armor, and inside it was a girl. She is extracted through a barrier as the armor explodes. The girl begins to demand to be let out, cursing the one who imprisoned her. She also adds that they are lackeys of the royal city and swears that even if she loses her life, she will never forgive them. She is Theseus, leader of the Flying Fish Bandits, a genius inventor, and a fugitive princess of the kingdom. Leping, upon seeing her, wonders how that girl was able to use a humanoid armor. However, the queen instructs him to begin the next phase of the interrogation. The hero reflects on how that armor was built and then states that he clearly has many questions for her. The minions witnessing the scene begin shouting for their boss to be freed. They even declare that if they must give their lives to rescue her, they will. They start offering their lives in exchange for their boss, until the thinnest one declares himself the captain of the squad and asks to be heard, claiming he has a plan. But before he can explain it, they are electrocuted, causing everyone to faint. The one responsible for this is Wang Kai, who immediately activates a mechanical arm to reach something inside a hole. More precisely, it was Alpha, who was completely covered in metallic spheres. Wang Kai immediately takes out a demagnetizing rod and begins to pass it over Alpha, removing the metallic spheres and freeing him. Then, he tells Alpha that he has very little combat experience and advises him to take it easy since he still has a long way to go. However, the young man was unconscious, and to make matters worse, his headphones had broken. Immediately, a message appears informing that a vulnerability has been detected, initiating a link and restarting the system. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Aristotle, something major was happening, as lightning was striking from there. But not only that, the robots were also revealed to have been destroyed by that attack, showing that the culprit was the floating television of the Dark Guild. That small being asks if the Emperor accepts joining their guild, but he refuses to submit, making it clear that the situation is not so simple. The man who appears to be the Emperor responds that he wants to clarify something, stating that what the Dark Guild did was an offering to the kingdom of Aristotle, and that the mere fact that he accepted to study it is already an honor. He also adds that he is interested in its electric magic body, and asks why he is not allowed to research it as well. Then, he strikes the ground with his staff and activates an ability. This command releases the metal sentinels, robots ready to capture the television, or rather, to destroy it. But before they can fire their cannons, the television uses electricity at high speed, piercing through all the robots. One by one, they explode, and the television asks if he used high-resistance material, revealing that it is useless since, against absolute voltage, everything remains a conductor. It questions whether he dares to challenge the Dark Guild with such a weak ability, stating that, in the end, he does not know how to measure his own strength. But then, part of a robot begins to reassemble, and the television asks if he is going to use the same trick again, assuring that no matter how many times he tries, the result will be the same: his complete defeat. However, upon turning around, the television sees that he is using a giant robot. The man inside that armor, revealed to be the kingdom's minister, explains that he has always researched the use of electric energy magic to replace steam energy magic in machine propulsion. However, the conversion rate is too low, and that he, an entity capable of releasing electric energy magic infinitely, could help solve that problem. The television responds that it does not understand what nonsense he is talking about and gives him one last chance, asking if he wants to die or submit to the Dark Guild. In response, the robot uses the steam fist. However, before hitting the television, the small being manages to ascend and evade the attack. It thinks that the kingdom of Aristotle is not that strong and wonders why its master has not yet taken over that place. But immediately, it confirms that it does not matter, that today, as number 24, it will conquer that place to offer it to its master and make him reborn. At that moment, the giant robot activates something in its fingers, and the television, seeing this, asks if that will be his response, as he is trying to eliminate it. The minister activates the finger missiles. However, the television dodges every attack and questions whether he still does not understand, revealing that there is a power gap between them. But the minister remains unfazed and says that now he is serious. Before he can act, the television uses Great Thunder, a massive attack that strikes the robot, electrocuting the minister inside. For a moment, both remain motionless for a few seconds until the television declares that from now on, the kingdom of Aristotle is officially under the Dark Guild's domain. At the same time, it reflects that its master will be pleased when he learns of its victory. But then, the minister comments that the outcome is exactly what he had foreseen. He activates his robot and launches an attack. He positions himself beside the television and thanks it for the energy, delivering a precise blow that sends it crashing into the ground with great force. The small being gets up and wonders why, reflecting that it used its maximum energy output and should have been reduced to ashes. Additionally, it confesses that it saw the attack, but that its body seemed to react with a slight delay. Then, it notices that the finger missiles were just a distraction and questions whether his true goal was to place something to disperse its energy. At that moment, the minister positions himself behind the television again and, while preparing an attack, states that lightning magic should not have such an output power. He admits that he is genuinely curious about its true nature. He activates the attack and sends the small being crashing into the hard ground once again. The blow is so strong that it destroys the television. The minister says that he does not believe only the Dark Guild can operate in the shadows. In the end, it is still uncertain who will devour whom. But then, from the ground where the television's remains lay, electricity begins to emanate, releasing a great electrical power. Upon seeing it, the minister wonders if he really destroyed it and how its power is increasing even more. From that crater, an electric being emerges, declaring that the minister dared to destroy the limiter its master gave it, beginning to scream in rage. As it releases its electrical energy, it starts to take on a more human form. It is revealed that its true form is that of a woman, who declares that she has changed her mind. She no longer wants them to submit to the Dark Guild. Now she desires the complete destruction of the kingdom of Aristotle. She is one of the 6 demonic pillars, test subject number 24, the Thunder Fairy. The minister, upon seeing her, responds that this is interesting and challenges her to continue with that thought, or at least try. He reflects that she is the legendary Thunder Fairy and questions whether fairies had not disappeared centuries ago. Finally, he assumes that the Dark Guild has been secretly collecting these beings. And with that, we've reached the end of this week's chapter. If you made it all the way to the end, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this chapter in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe so our community can keep growing and we can reach more fans like you. See you in the next video. In the meantime, if you're from the near future, I'll leave you the next chapter and a comic you're sure to enjoy. Thank you for being part of this adventure.